Hello, Schmoville. Well, I am very excited that the Schmoes Know podcast YouTube channel is up and running, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Listen, it's been a lot of fun revisiting these episodes. There's 5 phases to the podcast. This is phase 1 still that we've been in. A lot of great ones. We had the debut of Mark Riley and Ken Knapsack, and the first time both Katie Sackhoff and Bonnie Somerville were on the show. So there were a lot of really fun episodes so far. If you haven't heard those, please do that. But this is a really cool one. A buddy of mine, Andrew Freed, who's a producer, and he's actually on a recent episode of the podcast before we went on hiatus. And he was the guy who produced Mike Tyson's show. He was on. This is the first time that Andrew was actually on the show. And Andrew's just such a great storyteller. And it was really cool to watch his journey. I think it's for any aspiring producer or... Listen, people who don't really know what they're doing in their careers, this is a great interview because it shows where Andrew was a comedian, he was an actor, and he was doing that for a while. He had a couple of gigs, and then his life kind of changed, and he kind of goes through this throughout the episode, and he tells a really great Bob Costas story. I make him tell it every time I see him, and now he gets to tell it in the air, and you guys get to hear it. I love this interview. It's a lot of fun, and Andrew's a great guy to listen to, and has... This is 2011. He's done tons of stuff since this one. This aired sometime in 2011. It was a really great interview. I hope you enjoy it. And please subscribe and comment and let me know what you thought of the interview. And there's some exciting stuff with the podcast happening. So keep tuning into these little things I do right beforehand because hopefully I have some news sooner than later. All right, guys.
All right, guys, so we are back on the Schmoes Know podcast. Of course, I'm Kristian Harloff.
This is Mark Ellis.
And we could not be doing this podcast if we did not have our buddy here,
Cheese.
John Scheiser.
Hey, guys.
What's up, Cheese, man?
How you guys doing?
Doing all right. I'm actually really excited for this guest that we have on today. This is a good friend of mine.
Of ours, friend of the Schmoes.
Nah, he doesn't really like you. He's told me in private.
Oh, well,
But I do say this is a guy I've known for a very long time. I met him actually when he was a stand-up. I met him when he was I met him when he was an actor. Of course, I'm talking about Uber producer. Please give it up for my really good friend, producer Andrew Freed. Hey, Andrew.
Hey,
thank you. There's not like a soundboard with...
We'll edit in applause later. It'll sound great.
Sure, or great. Booing and hissing.
I'm actually very excited to be here. All jokes aside, this is great. This is the biggest gig I've had since college radio. This is something.
You're in the Schmoes office. This is where the magic happens. You literally have a great view of the Rocky poster.
This is where we filmed our first Twilight review.
Yes. I imagine that the dozens of fans out there would just find this to be like I'm walking in the footsteps of history here.
This is Lambeau Field
very much so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
This is the Lambeau Field.
All right. So Andrew is one of these guys that he starts telling a story and you're just in awe of a lot of his stories. Some of the stuff that he's told me over the past, I'm like, you think if you didn't know him, you're like, that guy's full of shit. But when you realize all of his stories are true and they're crazy and they're really entertaining, and he's going to tell a couple of those today. But I want to get into first how I met Andrew back in Los Angeles. This was when you were doing some of your Jerry Seinfeld-esque jokes.
Yes, I was very observational and very Jewish.
Yes, very Jewish. Okay, but he's actually a really, really funny dude.
Do you remember a bit you did?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sadly, I do remember bits that I did.
In the mirror?
I don't remember showering in the mirror, but there was, there was one bit really that was like a properly. I used to just sort of get up on stage and listen to the sound of my own voice in a microphone. I'm nervous. You see, I'm like shaking a little bit here.
I like it.
I like seeing you uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's true.
Isn't it weird?
See him on the edge. I know.
I feel very vulnerable.
I know. He's holding the mic like he's at a karaoke contest.
I'm picturing you guys naked. It's making me feel better.
We actually are naked. That's not you.
That's true.
Again, the curtain pulled back on the Schmo experience.
Every review, pantsless since day one.
So I didn't really have a lot of what you in the business would call strong comedy bits. But
wow.
Yeah, I was amusing. I don't know that I was funny or even entertaining,
you're
for that
entertaining
matter.
For sure.
Did you go on the road at all? Did you travel at all with the comedy?
I did do one road gig. So when I got out to LA, I had been doing stand-up in New York for a little while, and that I used all of that loosely. I was getting up when I could and having as many friends populate clubs so that I could get up. But I sort of was able to like move to LA and talk about all that I did in New York, which didn't really add up to all that much, but it sounded good. And then I would do the same thing when I went back to New York. I'd be like, oh, this is all that I did in LA. So I don't know that my career really amounted to much notoriety. But yeah, so I came out to LA. I met Kristian. Kristian was like he was my first comic friend out in LA. Which of course made me realize that like I could be great out here. If this is the level of comedy that is being presented in the greater Los Angeles area, I am going to just slaughter this town.
Yeah, this guy's getting spots.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to own this town. But Kristian was and Kristian remains really my only comic friend from that era. But yeah, so Kristian said you got to do road gigs. That's sort of the key. You do road gigs and then you come back, and that made sense to me. And so he had arranged with some other folks for a road gig for us in a bar in Riverside, which I guess So one of the again, the Lambeau Field. This is maybe more the Fenway Park of comedy, and so we walked into this bar that was, I don't know, how far is Riverside from California? I mean, from Los Angeles.
1 hour or 9 hours, depending on traffic.
Yeah, it was just like, so I was new to LA. I think I'd only been in LA for 2-3 weeks, and this was exciting. We went to this bar, and they were playing the Lakers game. It was populated. I didn't realize to what extent Riverside, just an hour or so outside of Los Angeles, could be such a different
Dukes of Hazzard.
Am I in Kansas right now?
Yeah,
or?
this was
Hour out of Los Angeles, 50 years back in time.
Yeah, it was a very, very different place. And so we got up there, and I was very earnest. We were all, just excited to be.
And I was screaming and yelling at the time, so that worked for that environment. So I was like, oh, that was a good set.
Do your fans know the oogity boogity phase of
don't
Kristian Harloff's stand-up career?
They didn't really know until about half an hour ago that I did stand-up.
Yeah.
Or 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, eventually one of your old stand-up videos will surface on our site. It just hasn't happened yet.
There was a lot of screaming and spitting and sweating.
And it worked for Riverside.
Yeah, well, yeah, they love him in Riverside.
They still are asking, when's that guy coming back?
That's right. I have a poster.
Like,
great. Where's our Schmoes?
That's what they're always going to say about Kristian, is they loved him in Riverside. So we came to do this gig. All these folks with varying numbers of teeth in their mouth were drinking beers and watching the Laker game, and they literally turned off all the Laker screens at once. And you hear like some shecky guy, I don't remember who was hosting, go, "Welcome to Comedy Night at Limericks." And you just hear like sprinkles of like, can we curse on here? Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we? It's the show. So we just hear sprinkles of people going, "Turn the fucking TVs back on." And we're like, okay, we're sort of standing there. We're like ready to go.
Like fighters in a stinky gym.
I don't remember what everybody else's set was like. I imagine Kristian crushed in some spitty, sweaty, screamy kind of way.
That's
right. But I came on, and as soon that, Andrew Freed is a young comic from, they sort of did that whole thing. And then I come on, and I swear somebody from the back of the room before I even uttered a word, said, "Go back to New York, you fucking Jew."
My mom was at the show.
Yeah, exactly.
And my stories about my bar mitzvah bits didn't really go over well in Riverside.
But there was a fight after.
Yeah, long story short, we ended up in the parking lot. People were taking tire irons out of their pickup trucks. I looked at Kristian. I said, "We got to get the fuck out of here." And this is not hyperbole. We ran to a Denny's that was like in the strip mall, whatever it was, contiguous to where we had, blown up the road comedy scene. We had,
it was fun.
I think, a milkshake at Denny's. We each bought red, white, and blue Harlem Globetrotter basketballs that we autographed for each other to always remember that night. And
you're always safe at Denny's. If the world of stand-up is a game of tag, Denny's is like base. You
That's
can't
right.
get hurt there. It's where you go.
It seems to be.
That
3
is
a.m.
wonderful.
You're in trouble.
Wonderful.
But it's the funny thing, as much as that, so the stand-up, we definitely had our experiences in stand-up, and Freed was also an actor, and he was in stuff. And one of the things that he has over all of us is he got to say that before the stand-up tour of Charlie Sheen, he actually got to work with Charlie Sheen.
I did.
Very nice.
In
Very
the
nice.
capacity as a fellow actor, you worked with Charlie Sheen?
Yes. I have. If you at home want to interactively scroll to my IMDb page, you will see one television appearance, and it was actually. I mean, look, I make light of all of these stories, to be honest. Just to be serious for a minute, but like they all are part of the sort of fabric that like gets you to where you're going, So yes, I downplay all of them. I had 2 words on an episode of Spin City, and that was my only television credit as an actor. But the truth is that like it was a cool day. It was a really cool day, and it was Charlie Sheen's first episode of Spin City that he shot. I think it actually aired as the second, but so it was the first time they shot Spin City in LA. It was the first time Charlie Sheen was replacing Michael J. Fox. It was this sort of crazy day in the history of, I guess now looking back, it's a weird day in the history of television.
It's a weird baton to pass.
Yeah,
and
Michael
J. Fox to...
Now I will remember. I do remember. I should say that. So Charlie Sheen and I were like the 2 people who had not been on this show for 100 years. And they had moved,
2 newbies.
Yeah, we had moved out to LA, and I was just excited to be allowed on a lot. But it was CBS Radford was where they shot it, which is, as you guys know, as Hollywood professionals, it's sort of a small, quaint. It almost feels like a summer camp kind of lot. And I guess Charlie Sheen had rolled up in his movie bus trailer, double wide, whatever it was, which I guess was a weird vibe that day for the cast that was, in these little bunks. And so he was trying to acclimate, and of course, ultimately he did, and everybody who's worked with him, with a few recent exceptions, sort of loves the guy. But so he was like a fish out of water there, and we had done our makeup randomly in the trailer at the same time. Again, me with my 2 words, and him with his many more than 2 words. The stakes were very high. All the network producers, everybody was there. This was a very big day because he was replacing, a legend. And could this show move on? Interestingly, Ashton Kutcher will probably be in a similar situation in a few weeks.
Maybe we should get you to do a couple words on.
I think I should.
I should replace Ashton Kutcher.
It's good. Well, it's good mojo, I think, for a new television person like that. Anyway, so he's not a new television person, but. So we're standing there in the wings. It's a live audience, and the excitement was sort of happening. And he turned to me and he said, I've never done. I don't know why I'm slipping into Christian Slater, but
that's good.
I have like 4 voices, and so I'll just pick one, and that can be Charlie.
We know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he said, I've never done live comedy in front of an audience like this before, and I turned to him and I go, I've never done anything before. And he goes, well, I feel better. And we sort of had like a fist bump moment and did our show.
But he was like a normal
cool
dude
day.
back then. Like he wasn't crazy, and he didn't have a tiger's blood and Adonis DNA and all that stuff yet. I mean,
not to me in our moment. I shared that one moment, and he was.
I met him when I was working at Warner Brothers at one point, and it was way more brief than that was. But he couldn't have been a nicer guy.
Yeah.
Could, but I mean, it was before he wasn't as. But again, even if you could be crazy and still be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still crazy, but you ever hear him say that he's a dick?
Nice.
You've never heard that about him.
But I think he always
is crazy nice people.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You've never heard that about him. Everyone will say, "Oh, he's out of his mind. He's crazy," but no one ever says he's a dick.
No.
Yeah.
Except for the people he might have like shot or something.
And I think he always was like a crazy dude, kind of playing himself. I mean, you go back to when we were kids, Major League. That wasn't an accident. He didn't get that role. I mean, that was the same sort of deal. He was Charlie Sheen, and so Charlie Sheen could pull off this role of
the best
Renegade.
relief pitcher ever of all time.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Rick Vaughn,
Well,
Rick Wild Thing Vaughn.
Rick Wild Thing Vaughn.
Let's talk. So that was it's the acting kind of. At what point do you say?
You're a little bit like my mom. You're like, tell that story that you told with the
That's right.
thing.
That's what we do in this podcast.
Everybody,
cute.
Andrew has something funny to say.
That's right. So how do you go from doing, let's say, the goal is to be an actor, and then at one point you say, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go in another direction. What happens? How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you go from being a comic to an actor to actually making money?
That is a great question.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Lots of bad decisions. I think my a series of bad decisions. No, it's I don't. I opened a Twitter account last week.
Oh, did you?
I'd like all of your followers.
What's your Twitter
it's
handle?
I really don't even know how it works yet. It's Andrew_Fried.
All right.
Excuse me. So,
Add
and
you
that's
right
FRIED, like fried but freed. And you got to fill out that bio, you know.
Yeah.
And I really, because I take myself more seriously probably than I should, I was really trying to figure out what I should put for that bio. A lot of people put producer of this, that, the other, director of that, or other people are trying to be witty and I can't.
Doesn't look like
And
you.
So that's not me. Andrew_Fried.
Oh, God.
And
So
so
score is huge, or else you get that guy.
I put, thank you. I don't want that guy getting all of your fans.
How many lines did that guy
Following
and the other
him.
guy do on Spin City?
Yeah, exactly. Words, not so many lines, but words. But so you have to fill out what you want for your bio there, and I just wrote, I tell stories, and it sort of I
Well,
liked it.
Cap-
Works.
Like everything.
If I was
Yeah.
a parent, I would not let you around my children with that line, but
No,
you may not want to be around kids.
And that's my sweet spot. There is like slightly creepy. You're not sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
That is a sweet
But
spot.
so, how did I get from A to B to C to D? I
Yes.
mean, it's a very long story, but I just kept sort of, I guess, telling stories in one way or another. And so I went back to New York. I went to work for my family in real estate. I put on a Brooks Brothers suit every morning and, sort of did that. And it was great, to be honest, coming back from LA and having a real job and having some place to be at 8 o'clock in the morning every day and getting into a routine and realizing that, like, I can accomplish things. I don't have to just sit and wait for the phone to ring
I feel
or...
like you got like a little bit of sanity back in your life.
Absolutely. And then I guess about a year and a half into that, I just felt like I was walking in somebody else's body, and it sort of was creepy to me. And I started to think, what happened to this whole life that I had for myself of creating and doing
in a
this?
bar and getting yelled at.
Yeah. And so, I was missing that. And so I eventually left my family business, which I thought was going to be like a 6-month protracted, like, I'll transition out. But when I let people know that was happening, they sort of said, "Get out," and they were very disappointed. And so I was back at square one. I think for 5-6 weeks I was doing extra work, just because that was the only way I knew how to make money.
Just got to be around it, Mick. Just got to be around it.
Exactly. But so I screwed the pooch there, which is the interesting part of that story is I was working for my grandfather and my uncle. And I went to get a haircut from a new person. My hair was sort of long, and my friend Brian Marcus said, "You should go to my new girl, and she'll hook you up, and you'll feel better," and the whole thing. And so I sat in her chair. She had a French accent. Her name was Chantal. She had a French accent, and she was sort of posing these questions to me that was just broken English to her, but seemed like deeper questions for me. And she was saying, "So, what are you? And how do you like to be?" And all these things. And you sit in a barber's chair or hairstylist hair, you don't realize you're staring at yourself in the mirror.
Looking at yourself in the mirror, you got this gypsy woman
absolutely.
asking you
Yeah.
deep life questions.
It's the only time when when you stare at yourself like that. She's asking me these questions, and I was like, "So is this how you are?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in a suit now. This isn't really how I am when I'm not working." And she's like, "So you're two people?" She kept saying these things to me, and I swear, ultimately, I sat there just sobbing. Like, as I'm looking, I'm like, and I had like a total mini breakdown in her chair.
See how I feel at the end of a haircut too. For
the end of
different
our
reasons,
reviews.
obviously.
Yeah. And I quit my job the next day. I was just like, I can't. This is not me. I have to get out. And so I quit my job the next day.
You went back to LA after that?
No, so then I was in New York, and a good friend of mine, Rich Kleiman. I love name dropping on here. So a good friend of mine, Rich Kleiman, who is now a music manager and works for Jay-Z, but at the time he was just hustling, and he was working at a company called Radical Media, and
Wait a minute. Didn't you jump over one of my favorite stories of all time in this?
Which is that?
Mr. Costas?
That is a good story. Well, that was years prior,
No,
but it is a good story.
You gotta get
so
to that
anyway, I'll
first.
finish this story, which is
I think
definitely got to
yeah,
get
You got to get to the
you close out. What you tease them with is the Bob Costas story is going to happen at the end. That
Yeah.
can-
No,
that
not
can-
the
that
end,
can
because
headline
it's too much.
everything.
We got
funny.
too
It's a
much-
good story. but
No,
I'm gonna-
people are going to be awed by that story. There's no way I'm letting you get. Radical is going to lead into a whole bunch of other things
If
that we're
I
going
was
to get
doing a
to.
set with Andrew Fried's material, though, I would probably headline with Bob Costas.
You don't even
wanna
know the
close
rest of
with
his
Costas.
stuff. The guy has worked with Britney Spears and Oprah Winfrey. We'll get to that by the end of.
Are you Stedman?
That's what I'm saying, though.
I
This
am
is like,
Stedman.
look, this is great, but this is going to show tell the Costa story first, then we will get into radical media.
So I moved back from L.A. Before I had even worked for my grandfather, and I was, I guess, like most part-time, almost full-time, living with a young lady at the time in New York. Very interestingly enough, Chantal, and she spoke in broken English to me the whole time.
Are you sure you want to get groceries today?
What are your grocery list? What? What does that mean? So I was living with this girl who I kept anyway. That's a whole other episode.
Say about a bit.
So I came out of the subway in New York. It was opening day of baseball season, April 2nd, as I recall. And I come out on like 56th and 6th Avenue. I was going to meet my friend. And I come out of the subway, and I just sort of look, like when you don't know which is north and south as you're coming out of the subway, especially having not lived in New York for a while. And I'm sort of taking a gander at the whole corner to see where I am. And I just see Bob Costas walk by. And he's like sort of a little guy, and he's sprouting around, walking fast, like he's got a quick pace
Very
going.
confident walk.
On a mission.
Yeah, he's on a mission.
He's got the walk where I don't want some random nutcase to bug me, so I'm going to walk.
That's it right there. And so I walk out, and I sort of dig that I saw Bob Costas, and I walk my way. And he, I'm thinking in my head like, oh, I should have said something, but no, I'm not a D. And so he actually, I'm standing on the corner there again, trying to figure out which way I'm going to go, and he sort of doubles back, stops, and says to me, "Excuse me, but do you know where?" And I forget what the exact address was, but 1125 Avenue of the Stars is. And like I didn't even know where I was. This was a corner I probably hadn't been to in years. I really didn't know where I was, but as if like a sign from the heavens. There's literally a sign, and I think it's on 56th and 6th that says 1125 Avenue of the Americas, or whatever the address is, with an arrow, like as if like this is how you're supposed to give him
Tell
direction.
him to come this way.
So I give him the direction. He says, "Thank you very much." He goes on his way. I go on my way, and I meet up with my friend. And I'm like, "Did you see me on the corner talking to Costas?" No. And I'm like, I blew it. Like in this world of people who make things happen for themselves and who like take these opportunities and seize them. Like I'm here. I'm unemployed. I moved back from L.A. I'm like want a real life. I don't know. And I see Bob Costas, and how great a guy is that? And I got like a sports thing and an entertainment, fulcrum thing happening in like my interests, and I should be talking to that guy, and I just blew this opportunity. And I say, you know what, I know where he is. And so
And then he pet his kitten and put in his monocle.
Really?
and so I'm going to wait for him. And so I stand outside the address I had directed him to. It's the William Morris building in New York, or at least it was at the time. And I'm standing there, and I'm waiting for Costas. And I'm standing there. Like, it's a good 2 hours that I'm standing there. And it's cold. It's like early April. And I remember, like, stamping my feet on the ground.
Are you thinking about what you're going to say to him?
I'm so nervous. And, like, I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to script it because I know if I script it, it'll just be bad. And so...
Oh, yeah.
And I also, like, there are multiple entrances to this building. Like, at some point I have to give up. Maybe he's gone out a different entrance. But I'm standing there, and finally, a little bit over 2 hours later, he walks out by himself. And I go, "Mr. Costas." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I'm not sure if you remember me from before." And he's like, and he's a very good guy. And he's like, "I think I do." And I go, "My intention is not to frighten you, but to impress you with my persistence." And he looks at me and he goes, "To be perfectly honest, you've accomplished a little bit of both."
Classic Costas line.
And I said, "I'd just love to borrow your ear." And he says, "I'm walking here, and I walk pretty fast. If you can keep up, you can walk with me." And we had this sort of great conversation as we walked from the William Morris office to the hotel that he was staying at.
Walking at a faster pace than you're used to.
Totally faster pace. And then you also have that moment, you're walking through the streets of New York City. Every dude who you pass in a crosswalk is sort of double taking at Costas.
Yeah.
And like but I don't want to be distracted. Like now I have my 6 minutes with Costas. What's my pitch? Blah, blah, blah. And again, long story short, he says to me, I'm very New York when I say story. Long story short. Long story short.
East Coast listeners.
Yeah. your dad.
Right.
I said to him, I want a job and I want to work for you. And he says, you should write a letter to my boss. And I write a letter to his boss, Rick Bernstein, a very impassioned letter. And I knew somebody else who worked at HBO Sports. And so I try to get it in the right hands. And I write this letter and never hear back. And that's okay. I'm out to dinner about 4 weeks later with an old neighbor of mine who was in town from LA, and I just happened to be telling him the story because I knew that he would sort of love the seize the dayness of it. And I'm telling him the story, and he goes, hold on, I need to call my mother. And he calls his mother, and he goes, hey, Mom, you know my brother-in-law, your son-in-law, Rick, who works at HBO Sports, didn't he tell you about some letter that he received? And he proceeds to tell me that this letter had been pinned up on Rick Bernstein's bulletin board as like, holy shit, I got this letter from this guy who stalked Bob Costas. He told me the Bob Costas story. He sounds smart. He sounds good. I want to give him a call. My friend Mike says to me, yeah, my brother-in-law is fully going to be calling you. And he has a fight that he's producing, Friday or whatever. But you will definitely hear from him. And I heard from Rick Bernstein the following week and had this meeting. And, the odd symmetry of my life and the opportunities that come and that didn't come is that Rick Bernstein called me 6 months later with a job offer. And I had just started working for my grandfather at the time. And I just didn't think I could do that at that point. I was 3 months into my grandfather and my family business and this commitment that I had made to them. And Rick Bernstein calls and says, I got a gig for you. And I was like, I can't do it. And so that could have been one of those moments where it was like, I forsook whatever the word is. I gave up this opportunity that could have transformed my life. But, I guess the way the universe works is the door knocks
what
again.
What I love about that story is the way that you tell it, you frame it, that the universe dealt you Bob Costas. Like we're all playing in some cosmic poker game, and the universe has just given you the Bob Costas card, and you almost didn't play it.
As I recall, I said to Costas, the universe does not give me many opportunities like this, and I just want to, take advantage of it. And he says, well, it may be a unique opportunity for you, but every person who I meet is meeting Bob Costas. And so, that does really put things in perspective. But
when we have Costas on the podcast, we got to ask him about
where is Costas, by the way?
He's
Probably back in St. Louis.
But I mean, you don't.
Retired?
I feel like you see more of Jim Lampley than you see of Costas these days.
Yeah,
Where is he?
Costas doesn't do the NBA anymore, and
He's like a strictly Olympics.
Yeah, he's more of an Olympics kind of guy, and he may do some. He's always around baseball. He's got a lot of stuff that he does on the MLB Network, but
So it's just
taped
like Tom
kind of stuff.
Brokaw, like he comes
Yeah.
around once every 4 years.
But Costas, the guy, is over 60 now.
No.
Yeah, he is.
He
Costas
is.
is
He
over
hasn't
60 years
aged
old.
a day past his
He-
20.
I
He
think
looks
he's about
like he's ready
63,
for
but,
his bar
yeah.
mitzvah.
All right. Well, look, I love that story. It's one of my favorite stories. But
Yeah,
I know you wanted to get into the radical media thing. Of course, we should. That's the path of the
This
producer.
is really this is very James Lipton.
Andrew
I
Freed,
feel
this
like-
is your life.
Have you heard? This is we did this to Bonnie when Bonnie Somerville was on. She kind of went down. She does the same thing. She felt
Yeah.
it goes through it, and it's like therapy for Mr.
In
Freed.
2004.
That's right. In 2004. Apparently,
This is very
this
James
just
Lipton.
in
You had
from,
two lines that changed the course of Spin
This
City
just in
forever.
from Perez Hilton. Apparently, there are 85 people sitting on Bob Costas' lawn.
This is all, it's very James Lipton.
Okay, so all right, well, you went
in
to
2000,
Well, we went a lot of
on
these,
Spin City, you said,
Yes.
Morning Carlos.
that's the best. Now,
Morning Carlos.
but now look.
Tell us, what was
killed
your
that.
All right,
motivation?
so Carlos, you went to work.
Morning Carlos.
Carlos, you went to work at Radical Media, and
Yeah, I worked hard. I was $100 a day PA
Is that her
with
story?
gray hair. Yes,
Really?
I was working. I was working at the Tribeca Film Festival before Radical, and I came up with this crazy idea that I was going to train little kids. Scholastic was one of the sponsors of the Tribeca Film Festival, and again, probably in the back of my head, just trying to take advantage of children in some way and use it for the betterment of my career. But I got this idea that Scholastic was a sponsor, and they had kids who wrote articles for their weekly reader, or I guess their website at the time. And I said, I'm going to train local kids to be reporters for the red carpet for the Tribeca Film Festival, and we'll tape it and we'll put it on the website or something. And so that became like my gig at the Tribeca Film Festival. And so I was on a red carpet, and the president of Radical Media, a guy named chairman of Radical Media, a guy named John Kamen, who's pretty wonderful, and so he had a movie there that was he had a movie at the festival that I was that they had a red carpet premiere for. So I had this little kid. I had known John from when I was a stand-up and a writer. I had done like a little pilot for Radical back in the day. And so I'm with a little 10-year-old kid, and I'm on my knees, sort of whispering notes into his ear. And Kamen walks up.
I hope there were notes.
Yeah, Kamen. This all got very blue.
I tell good stories.
I tell stories, not good stories, just stories. It's for you to judge. But anyway, so Kamen walks up, I think, with Mayor Bloomberg. And I'm laying on the ground, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This is what I'm doing now." And so the kids wrote a story about the movie and quoted John in it, and I sent him the link, and I just kept badgering John. And eventually he said, "You want a shot? This is a new thing for you. You haven't done anything like this, but I'll get you a gig." And so there was one thing that I PA'd on, and then this ultimately, the One campaign, which was a PSA at the time that Brad Pitt and George Clooney and Bono were doing that led to the Live 8 concerts. They were filming their first PSA, and they couldn't really pay people all that much, and so even the PAs were just getting, I think everybody was getting just $100 a day, and so I was hired as a PA, but stayed on the project for about 6 months and just worked my ass off, and it led to the next thing and the next thing, and I was an associate producer on a Jay-Z documentary, which was amazing, and I'm brushing over all of these, but you meet people, and you prove to them that you work hard, and that you got something to contribute and to add, and then it leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
I need to take a nap. This is all very exhausting.
Yeah.
That was the thing you brushed over, and I'm not going to let you brush over the Jay-Z thing, because that's where Sugar Freed came from.
That's right. That's again, Rich Kleiman, good friend. I was working with him on the Jay-Z movie, and he represented a hip hop artist at the time named Rhymefest, and Rhymefest actually came up with the term that my hip hop name should be Sugar Freed. And because I was both hanging out and just spending a lot of time in the hip hop world for my time of working on Fade to Black, it stuck. And oddly, it came back as a nickname. So it's my it's a name that I use for random things, but it has come
Get
back.
in the clubs and stuff.
Yeah, I work with it's the pin to all of my checking accounts.
It should be your
and
Twitter
ATM
handle. I
cards.
don't know why you're using your real name when you got Sugar Free just laying
This
around.
just in from Bank of America. Your accounts are drained.
Yeah, but
Getting a lot of updates.
I've been working with a lot of it's the update desk.
This just in.
This just in. Mark Ellis got a haircut.
Well, but anyway, so I became Sugar Freed, and then now I've been working with a lot of Brits randomly, and that nickname has come back and stuck with all of
Sugar-Freed.
them. And so there are a lot of British people who call me Sugar Freed now.
Sugar
which-
Cube.
So
which
what
I
do you
like.
do now? What's your job? What do you do now? All this stuff is led up.
You want to skip over Brittany
I'm
and
just so
Oprah?
tired.
I just want to know what the hell he does. I have no idea what this guy does.
I tell
He was
stories,
a $100
Mark.
PA,
I tell stories.
and now you're big time.
Yeah.
You're a big time storyteller.
Yeah, but how do you go from doing that? That's the question. Like, how do you go from... Well, because one of the shows that I really liked...
You put one foot in front of the other. And
Yeah,
you,
but
and
Iconoclast. Can we talk
you
about
wanna know, You want to
Iconoclast?
know the advice that I would give or if anyone asked ever, but it's the advice that was given to me, the probably the best advice that was ever given to me, which is you can't think of what the journey is going to be and what it leads to. I think when you're young and you have so much that you want to accomplish, you think about everything leading to something. If I do this, it will get me this, and then I'll know this person, and then and it just, the world doesn't work like that. And so my friend Jordan Wynn, who is a big time producer himself,
Source Code.
producer of the movie Source Code, we spent a couple of July 4ths at his parents' house in Phoenix.
Just stayed the whole 2 years and just waited.
Yeah, we just waited for July 4th to come, but it's just weird that we went to the hottest place on earth on the hottest weekend of the year. But his dad, Greg, gave me very good advice at the time, because I was all in my head about I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and he said, you just do what's in front of you, and you do the shit out of it. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember that he said that, but you do the shit out of it, and then you do the next thing.
So
And
when Oprah was in front of you,
I did Oprah. No.
That's really
edit that out.
No, that's gonna be the only. That's how we're gonna plug this show.
Yeah.
That's the teaser.
Did you get a little emotional when it was Oprah's last day?
It's just.
I haven't watched it. I TiVoed it, and I haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's on my TiVo too. I haven't brought myself to watch it yet.
Here's
Because
a
it's
little
sad.
fact.
It's not that I haven't gotten to it. It's that I have to be in the right place.
Here's a little unknown fact for you guys listening: is the fact that what's that?
Who's the update guy on WFAN? I can't think of his name. But
Wait.
it's like
But listen, so Freed
just in.
worked on an Oscar special with Oprah Winfrey, and
never met her, never spoke to her.
I don't care about that. What I do care about is that your friendly neighborhood schmoes almost made that show. We almost became part of that show.
I don't remember how, but remind me.
You are going to have us do a little inner thing.
Did you
for
see him
the
just turn
Oscars.
into a producer right back then? He was like, I don't remember
it's
your
like-
name, but tell me
I
why
have no
should be talking
recall.
to you.
I don't think it was that.
It wasn't Oprah?
I think it was there. I
It
can't
was a different
remember
Oscar-
what.
whatever- well, some Oscar special you were working on, we were supposed to do something for, and then maybe he was just lying to us.
No, I wasn't. I might have been a little bit because I do remember having that conversation with you,
Yeah.
but I don't remember
We
me
sensed
having that
Something
conversation
along
with
the lines of you guys
Oprah
may
or
get to meet
Gail.
Oprah, but she's not giving you a car.
So what everyone wants to know is how
Did you
crazy
see
is
that?
Britney Spears?
Did you see that I switched? I turned my hat and I became a producer there. For
Yeah,
a second.
it's you. When we thought we could get something from you, you became a producer.
I
again,
have
and now
no
we got
recall of that
rejected.
specific discussion.
Is Britney Spears a nutcase? Is
Yeah,
she
how
hot?
crazy-
She's
is she?
very sweet, very nice girl, Brittany.
Now, did you
I
work
always
with the
have
chunky?
her-
Did you work with the chunky Britney Spears or?
No, she was on her road to recovery. We worked. I worked with Britney Spears.
See? This
on
is-
the
While she
highest
was-
rated MTV show ever, right?
Until the Jersey Shore was invented, yeah. But yeah, I worked with her when she was recording the Circus album and when she was getting ready to release that album,
which we reviewed.
the Circus album.
Oh shit, yeah, we did. Long time ago. on current TV.
And yeah, spent a lot. I mean, that's the nature of what I do is interesting like that, in that I jump headfirst into people's lives,
Yeah.
and I spend an intense amount of time with them. And then when it's over, it's really over. There's sometimes you go back and you do more, but like even if whether it's the Oprah Oscar special and I spend 2 hours with Halle Berry and Penelope Cruz, like there is a trust that happens that they are sort of implicitly trusting me to make sure that they look and are presented in a positive way, and I'm trusting them that they're going to give me the goods that I need to go off and make a show. And so there's an intense interaction there, and then it's gone. I could see them in the street 2 hours later and not say anything. And so with Britney, it was 3 months, but it's very intense, and then it's sort of fleeting.
You're
It's
like
interesting.
Schwarzenegger from Eraser. You really get these people. You set them up good for
You
their
impregnate
future.
them?
And you don't impregnate
Oh,
them, no.
sorry.
And then you just kind of disappear.
Yeah, that's a nice
And then if
way.
you see him again, you're not even allowed to say anything.
I feel like a Scott Bakula in Quantum Leap type, that I really
I'll give you that.
I come into people's lives, I try to put them on the right path and right or wrong, and then I go to Ziggy or whatever that was all called, and
Well,
then I'm
then,
out.
so what's the leap home? Because in Quantum Leap, Scott Bakula was always hoping. He doesn't want to end up in the back of some pickup truck in Arkansas. He wants to end up home. So what is going to be the Quantum Leap home for producer extraordinaire Andrew Freed? Is it going to be back in that barber chair with Chantel?
Wow, maybe. I don't know.
That's the show, by the way. Is every time he goes in to get his hair cut, Chantel cuts it, and he disappears, and all of a sudden he's working with some other
it's
celebrity.
the looking in the mirror with Chantal,
Yeah.
and then I don't know. There are little things. It's the forest through the trees stuff for me that I worked for over 2 years on a documentary with some very good friends of mine. A documentary about the Broadway show In the Heights. And so the way home is that when I'm running and stressed out and it's opening night on Broadway and I got 3 camera crews and I've been up since 6 a.m. and I'm running around and trying to get everything done, and I got to go from this dressing room to that dressing room, and I literally am like running, cantering. I don't really run, but jogging.
Like a Costas type pace.
Yeah, like walking at a Costas pace.
learned from
Good
the best.
callback. And I'm walking across the stage at the Richard Rodgers Theater, and I just sort of stop in the middle and have a moment of like, I'm here. Like, I may not be standing in the front of the stage singing and dancing the way I thought I would when I was 15, and or whatever else I imagined as I went on in this life of wanting to be, creative and an actor or whatever else. But like, I'm here and I'm in it, and this is amazing. And I'm looking out at these 1,200 seats, and then I have that 5 seconds, and then I go and do my job. And so I have those moments, and that is the the home for
Yeah,
me.
I think anytime there's a big production, there's a big kind of Hollywood thing that's going on. If you can get near Andrew Freed, he's always the calm he's always in the eye of the storm. You know, when you watch the movie Twister, some people are Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, and they're right in there and they're playing it cool.
Freed's the Twister.
Freed is the cow. No. Freed is them. He's right in the middle of it.
I'm
Everybody
Bill
else is.
Paxton. I'm Helen Hunt.
Chet.
Prefer to not think he's Helen Hunt.
But
Where's Helen Hunt? She's with Bob Costas. Where do these
she's
people
past her
go?
expiration date.
No, Helen Hunt is.
Where do these
She's
people
42.
go?
It's over.
She was
gotta
on.
be older
She was
than
on
that.
Leno the other
Whatever.
night.
It's
She was
over.
good.
It's over.
But I'm sure
don't think
Andrew
she
Freed
does
She
would
won
be-
an Oscar and an Emmy for Best Actress in
Yeah,
the same year.
Yeah, it's over. Let me say, as far as like one of the shows that I loved that I want to know how it all came about, because I don't know if I actually asked you about this, Iconoclast. How did that start?
Iconoclast is one of those things that, I will be proud of forever. And it was a collaboration with a lot of people who had a lot of hands on it at different times. But
It's a show on Sundance.
yeah,
Network,
it's one of those
right?
things that I like to say, and this isn't true, but I like to say I didn't think anybody was watching it except my mom.
Yeah.
But regardless of how many people watch it, because I still question the amount of people who actually watch the
lot of people know
episodes.
it.
Out
People
here
are aware
they
of it. It's a show
do.
where they have two different kind of people.
But
they'll
people
have,
are aware of it,
Maya
yeah.
Angelou will be talking with Ricky Henderson. It's like two very different worlds.
Maya
colliding.
Angelou was on with Dave Chappelle, which is pretty random, but Ricky Henderson definitely should be on
We gotta get
Iconoclast.
Ricky Henderson on there with somebody.
Freed loves the Mets.
Yeah. There's Kristian. Very topical, non sequitur.
That's what I do.
So yeah, Iconoclast
throw
was
it in.
awesome. That was when I was at Radical. I was freelancing there.
And you helped create it, or
No, I came up through the ranks of it.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely, was in the room as it was coming to fruition, but I in no way created
you weren't the
it.
doctor delivering the baby, but you were in there. You were a nurse. You had
I was
a
like
plan.
mopping up the whatever's on the ground. These things. Radical was at that time was a place where, we were. Some people can say it was the inmates running the asylum, but we were just sort of thrown into the deep end of the pool. There was this show. It came up. I'm not sure that any of us had thought out what it was. A producer was assigned. Associate producers were assigned. We were all sort of making it up as we went along, and so it was very collaborative. It was everybody was sort of whatever you can make. Whatever you can contribute, made it come to fruition. And I was an associate producer on that the first year and then producer for the next 3 years. And it was amazing. Again, you get to spend 2 days with these unbelievable people and then you're gone. But you take with you whatever you can and you just sort of appreciate that. I was looking through production stills of my favorite episode, which was a sort of random one, but Norman Lear and Howard Schultz was a favorite for me for any number of reasons. And Howard Schultz, of course, who is the CEO and founder of Starbucks, and Norman Lear, who invented the sitcom as we know it.
Yeah.
And so spending 2 days with those guys was amazing. I was
Interesting enough, a lot of failed sitcoms get written at Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. Again, good call. Good, just tying it all together.
I do what I can.
For our listeners.
There's a reason I have a podcast.
Yeah. And so I was looking through production stills, and because I want to hang some on the walls of my new office, and there's like a shot of Norman Lear catching a fish at the Pike Street market in Seattle, and like there's the fish throwing, and he's catching it, having been thrown across the room to him, and it's just like, wow, I got to spend those 2 days with those two guys, and you can't take that away from me. So that was an amazing show, and it is a calling card, and I am oftentimes embarrassed by the extent to which people, just sometimes picture me in a room by myself making Iconoclast, because that's not how anything gets done. But it was an amazing time, and the people who I met and learned from, Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky are the directors of that show, and Joe has always been a mentor to me, and I've learned a shitload from all of these people. And so, and editors, you don't realize in unscripted television, they say that like movies are a director's medium and scripted television is a writer's medium, and that unscripted television is a producer's medium. And that is true, except that it's not, because it's an editor's medium. And
I'll go with you on that one. Like when we went to Comic-Con, we shot about 12 hours of footage, and about 15 minutes of it was usable. It was great because we were able to edit it down to the usable stuff, but there's so much stuff that just isn't.
Like, this is funny, but it doesn't really apply here. And like,
it's crazy.
Aspect.
And then it's just this is funny, but it can't go before this, and it has to go after this. Editors are like the most underappreciated part of this business. They take oftentimes a load of crap and make it into something wonderful, or an even greater challenge is being given something wonderful and letting it be as wonderful as the footage is. It's not. They're amazing, and so. What I've learned from editors, and as a producer or a story producer or whatever you are, you can give them the tools and you can give them outlines and set a vision for them, and it is a collaborative process. But so I've just on all of these projects you learn from producers, you learn from directors, you learn from editors, and that was a great show. And it still is. I guess it's still on. I haven't seen it in a while. I was not a part of season 5, and I'm sure there will be a season 6. But like that team, in many ways, has gone on to do the show Masterclass that is on OWN, which is a very cool show. They have a show called Visionaries that's coming out on OWN, the Oprah network. And
again, it comes back to Oprah.
I can try to avoid Oprah.
He did what was in front of him at the time.
Our lives are forever.
Be Oprah Winfrey.
Our lives are forever linked. Me and Oprah, who I never met or spoke to.
Well,
of course, I don't think Gail's ever met her.
But that's like some of this. I mean, you listen to Freed stuff, and it's just it does show you exactly what he was saying before, as far as like going for it. A lot of people just sit back and be like, well, eventually I'll kind of go down that path if it's meant to be. You really have to go after what you want to do, though, too. Especially like that's why it's easier for Mark and I to do movie reviews. Because that's what we're going to accomplish. That's what we want to do.
You get 2 hours
we know,
and then 15 minutes.
Well, let's say we're going to put our goal in front of us. We know the movie starts at 3. We'll be there.
But you say it's easy, but think how much time and effort actually goes.
I know. I'm clearly, like you have to be persistent, and you have as much as we use the Schmo name, we try as hard as we can to get this name out there, and that's like if that's what you want to do, whatever you want to do, you got to push forward.
And what I would like to take would like everybody listening to take from Andrew is that persistence is a great tool to have, but when a lot of people think persistence, especially young people, and they're moving out to Los Angeles and they have all these big dreams they want to make come true.
Obnoxious.
It's not annoying. It's not running at people and talking a big game and trying to make them laugh every 5 seconds.
No.
You can be persistent and still have a nice.
And you also
using that
you do have to play it cool a little bit. I mean, the Costas story, you can get away with certain things at certain times in your life and with certain relationships that you have, and you just go for it. But
there's something with that Costas story, though. The thing with the Costas story was that when he went up to him, what he said to him was effective. And and the way he crafted his words to get him to, you don't just go, hey, I'm the next guy. I'm the next guy. All I need is you to just talk to me and let me get your voice. That's the type of
course,
shit.
that's probably actually what happened, but the way
exactly.
he tells
he wrote a better version of it and submitted it.
This is the much better version.
But
Andrew, I do not want to encourage everybody to go up to every famous person they see on the street. That is not the way to do it. But when that one was actually meaningful to me, and that was somebody who I really did want to have that conversation with. And so it wasn't just like, oh, I think I know him from something. It was that he represented something to me, and I took advantage of that opportunity. I certainly would not do that now, and I certainly realize that there is a level of courtship that happens in Hollywood where it's like trying to date a girl. You don't want to be too needy, and nobody wants somebody who wants it so bad, and it is a tricky thing.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
It's a tricky thing, but
I think you'll know when the universe opens up to you and you actually have a great opportunity. And if you don't feel it, if you feel weird about it, don't do it. I saw Eddie Van Halen in Ralph's last week, and I didn't say anything to him because it wasn't right.
Should have given him a hug, and that's it.
Did you have something to say to him? There are people who you
could have talked to him about six.
But is he the person? Is he the person who you want to talk to? That's the thing. Bob Costas at that time.
No, I don't want to meet my heroes. If somebody can get me, something in my career, that's one thing. But I don't want to meet my heroes because I just want him to be the guy that looks like he's having a great time playing Panama.
God forbid you go up to him and he's like, "Fuck off, kid."
Yeah. I don't think he would have done that.
Shit's melting.
I wanted something from him at that time, and he was the person who I thought could get it. And that's, when people meet with me, and, not that I have so many people who are batting down the doors, but, I say to them, what can I do to help you? Because in 5 minutes, this meeting is going to be over, and I'm going to be going back to my work, and it's going to be intense. And so, what can I do? Is there someone I can email? Do you want to work as an entry level person in something that I'm doing? Like, what can I do for you? And for Costas at that time, there was something that I wanted, and he connected me with his executive producer, and so it was all very tangible. And I don't know, you just I guess I am going to butcher this story, but I think Betty Davis is the person who was once asked the advice, how do I make it to Hollywood? And she said, always take Fountain.
I like that.
So it's like, I don't know.
Which is a street in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing before we take off, I do want to know, Andrew, can you tell, what are you working on now? What's the latest? What's the one that's...
Big things for Boardwalk Pictures, my production company, and for me and for all of these projects. So the Boardwalk Pictures offices officially open this week in Santa Monica.
Congratulations.
Wow. He is known as Sugar Freed at Boardwalk. Do not look him in the eye.
Yeah. And we...
That's Fiji water.
So we have a big project that we have going on with AMC. I don't know that they've announced it yet formally, but it will be a monthly primetime project with them that we're very excited about. Some very talented people who I've gotten to work with on that. I'm producing the first hour of what will be a big series on Oxygen called the Glee Project. So I did a big casting special for them.
And you are a closet Gleek.
Yeah, there's something about singing and dancing, and that I'm not going to.
And high school kids.
And high school kids. Yeah. But yeah, so the casting special for the Glee Project, which is on June 12th at 8, maybe.
It's on Oxygen. Everybody's got a DVR. You don't have to preview guide it. You can look it up.
But it's not the first episode of the Glee Project. It is the hour before that. So the Glee Project is on at 9, and that's going to be wonderful, and I'm sure everyone will enjoy that. This is the sort of pre-show hour of that was great. We got to go around the country, Chicago, Dallas, in L.A. We had callbacks. Really wonderful. It's a great show, and I'm going to go to Burbank to picture lock that edit today, and hopefully it will make it to air in time for June 12th.
You and your big industry terms.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess I just assume that we're the only 4 people here. You guys make me feel so comfortable. But yeah, there are legions of fans across the country. Picture that. So I'm gonna lock that. So that comes out. I have a series that I'm executive producing with Demi Moore and Amanda de Cadenet for Lifetime that launches in January called The Conversation, which is very exciting. We have a pilot that I am executive producing with Michael Davies, who's an awesome guy, that we have for A&E that I hope goes. And what else? I don't know. And I'm just the buzzer.
You gonna go see the Yankees in
yes,
town?
hold on. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna wrap up with Andrew. But yeah, I love it. Hold on 1 second. I gotta answer
Levels.
All right, and we're back, and I would just like to say that it's been it's been an honor to have you on, buddy. We're
thanks, Kristian, but I'm here every week. I don't know
why. No,
why.
not you. The guy who's actually accomplished something. in his life.
Next time I want it to be lighter. This has been like a journey and fun, but next time we should just talk about nothing.
Of course.
I feel like I've come on.
This was
and
a good set of podcast for the character of
It's not a name
Sugar Freed.
dropping good douchebag. Like, people want to know like that kind of stuff as far as like, because look, we approach our reviews and our stuff like from the everyday guy, just normal people.
Is that what you call it?
Kind of. And the thing is too, like, people like the guy, our audience likes to hear about this type of stuff, and they don't have the inside track of a lot of. So to hear stories like that, and I think that it's inspirational. A lot of people to hear like that Costas stuff, and to hear like the fact that you went from being an extra and stuff to getting yourself to a position where you're working with Oprah, you're working with Jay-Z, you're doing stuff that people are, they think about, and like, oh well, maybe this 15-year-old kid right now is listening to it going, that's a path that I should try to do.
One day I could be on a podcast with the Schmoes.
Exactly. That's the only thing he's thinking about.
Yeah, and to do that, you have to meet Oprah, and you have to hang out with Jay-Z. That's
Never
how
met
you
or
get
spoke to Oprah.
So what are you
did
and
her, though.
Oprah
You
working
did
on
her.
next?
That's right. But Andrew, we would like to thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I think that if your career in Hollywood, wherever your career goes, I think it's kind of like a boxing match. So you go in there and you fight for 3 minutes, and then when you go in between rounds, it's nice to have a cut man, a guy like Freed.
That's right.
That will just kind of bring you back down to earth, tape you up, send you back on your way, and then he disappears.
Well,
Yes.
he will be back. He will not disappear. He will be back on the Schmoes Know podcast. We'll be working with Freed, hopefully in a larger capacity. We'll talk about that some other time.
Lots of schmoes in my future.
That's right.
I love this. This was awesome, not just because you guys gave me a microphone and let me speak into it, but because this was cool. I want to do it again. I want to talk about, I don't know,
Let's talk about
something
movies.
else.
Let's talk
Sports,
movies.
movies.
Let's talk movies.
Like I do a Sportsaholics podcast. So
Really?
yeah, you're more than welcome to come on.
Any
Rap some Mets.
place where there are, and I don't like the
I know.
Mets.
I picked that up with the Yankees team.
Christian is from Queens.
And I should like the
And
Mets, but I
he
don't. I
loves
hate
the
the Mets. I
Mets.
like the Yankees.
Man,
but,
you picked the right horse with that one. my
That's
friend.
right.
I am
My
looking
dad
in the
trained me.
Schmoes lair here. There's, of course, the famous Rocky poster, and then this Mr. Met doll on the desk.
That is false. Everyone's looking around and seeing nothing
my
except an
God.
urn of the late great Taz.
No, I saw
We love
Yoda,
the
and I'm like, wait,
Mets.
Yoda's not a Mets fan.
All right.
Are Taz's ashes in this room?
Yes, right there near the aliens. All right. That being said, we're going to leave with
Wow.
Taz is a legend, and that being said, the legendary producer Andrew Freed,
Legendary.
who will go on to do some great stuff. I'm sure has already done some great stuff. And
More.
check out some of his
things.
stuff, guys, and make sure you watch that hour special right before the Glee project and
On Oxygen.
That's
Yes.
right.
Andrew _Freed.
That's right.
Andrew
Underscore.
Freed,
Follow him.
Fried.
Yes.
I am. I think I have 12 followers.
I think it was 22,
Really?
maybe.
Maybe just since this has gone. I don't know.
Well, you'll
Well, I'll add
see.
you too,
Hopefully, you'll
and-
see more. But Andrew, thank you again, and we will look forward to having you on very soon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Peace out, Holmes.